And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our first character. Every enemy that we have created so far has been a blueprint that had an AI that was attached to it, which then used a floating system to be able to create its movement towards the character. So when I first started off this series, we kind of walked down this area right here, and we saw the three different types that we had. The first one was just moving towards us and then stopping. This one was moving towards us and shooting, and this one was rotating in place and shooting. So let's take a look at how we can build each one of those. In the first one, or in this first tutorial, we'll look at this one, then we'll go to this one, and then in a further tutorial, and then we'll finally look at that one in the last tutorial. Okay, so let's grab this first guy, and I'm going to put him out onto the mesh, and let's add him in, say about right there. Okay. All right, so essentially what you see is the pawn itself, or the character itself, has a. Let me go to where his it's going to be there, and this is going to be the statue enemy. Okay, so you'll see that it's just a blueprint class. It's labeled as a character. You see that the character class, or the parent class, is character and not pawn. That gives us the ability to do a couple of things, and one of those things is to have what's called pawn sensing, and we'll show you how to add that as we create another version of this guy right here. So let's go ahead and push play. So essentially what's going to happen is nothing's going to happen. Even though I'm in the navigational mesh area, this character will not see me or react to me until I get in front of it. As soon as I get out from in front of it, I'm no longer in this coned area. The character will no longer be able to see me and will thus stop moving. So let's go ahead and push play. Okay, so you'll see that I'm inside the navigational mesh area and that I'm actually walking directly behind the enemy, but the enemy is not seeing me and they're not reacting to me. So let me walk into the enemy's field of vision. You'll see that the enemy will start to react towards me. Let me try to get out of the enemy's field of vision. And oops, not doing a very good job getting out. There we go. Okay, so now that I'm behind the enemy again, the enemy is not seeing me and it is not chasing me. So let's go ahead and show you how to make one of these. Okay, so inside of our content folder, we're going to go back to our folder that is our A_enemies. We're going to double click and you'll see the H missiles that we were working with earlier and the S mine. And what we'll want to go ahead and do is create a new folder. And that new folder will be labeled statue enemy. Okay. From there, once you've got the folder, double click and open it. We're going to right click in there, and this time we're going to go to blueprint class, which we've done before, character. So go ahead and click on character. All right, we're going to name this statue_enemy. Okay, once that's been created, let's go ahead and double click and open up the blueprint. Okay, so now that we have the blueprint open, what we want to do is we want to add a component, and we're going to add a common cube. And the reason for this is because we need to be able to put in a static mesh for the statue. Later on, when we actually make these things movable, we'll go to mesh itself and we'll put in a skeletal mesh, and then we'll drop in some animation possibly. But in this case, we just want something that's going to be static. That's because we're not trying to get the motion to work right, or the animation to go. We're just trying to get it to move towards us using pawn sensing. So in that case, what we've done is we've added a component. We've added a cube. And remember that you can go to the static mesh and you can click on there and you can click and grab whatever you want. So I'm going to type in statue. And I should have a couple of different statues. Okay, let's turn this guy around so that they're actually facing, and let's make this a little bit smaller. Okay, let's rotate it. Okay. So that's the statue that I'm going to have come after us. Right now it's just the basic color white. If you want to, you can go in and again underneath materials, go and find the material for this. So we could type in statue, and it's one of the angel statues. That's probably fine. Go ahead and hit compile and save. Okay, so now we have the mesh. If we were to put this out on the floor, we would actually see something. So I'm going to hit compile and save. Let's close this and let's grab an instance of this and put it out on the floor. Oops, moving around too fast. Okay, so we'll see that when I select it, it doesn't have the pawn sensing added to it. If I were to go back to mine, mine's got the little green rays that are coming out of it. This one does not, so let's go ahead and add that to it. So we're going to, again, go back to contents, A_enemy, underneath statue enemy, double click on it. Again, in add components, we're going to click in here, and this time we're going to type in pawn sensing. Okay, so you'll see that we get not the noise emitter, but we want pawn sensing. Okay, so once pawn sensing is there, we can click on it. And from there, we do need to hit compile and save. And then this way we can actually see the rays that have been added to this. Otherwise, if you don't hit compile before you start working on this, you won't actually be able to see the different rays coming, projecting away from the source. Okay, so for me, this is a bit excessive, and really we're only going to be using pawn sensing vision, so like sight. So we don't need to have hearing up. So I'm actually going to click on this one and hit 0. And also on the second one, we'll hit 0 and hit tab. And now we actually get to see what is the visual sensing. At 5,000, that's pretty big. The arena that we're working in, I don't think is more than maybe 3,000 by 3,000. So let's make this, let's say 2,000. Okay, so that has reduced the radius of how far away the character itself now can see. Okay, and the other thing that we could do, well, one thing is radius. At the very bottom, you'll see peripheral vision. If you go 180 degrees, it doesn't go anything more than 90, so everything has to be less than 90. So if I was to type in 60, you'll see that now starts bending in towards the middle. Let's make it 45, and 45 gives it a very, very much in front of it type feel, right? So only things that are going to be seen in front, and that's actually what we saw in my example. You can make this very severe to where it's only very much in front of it, or you can make it again 90 degrees to where it can go to where the character, as soon as they pass next to the character or next to this enemy, they would be being seen. But I'm going to switch this back to 45 because I like being able to kind of like run next to it and away from it to get away from it to get it to stop, so I can use it as an example. From there, the next thing would be pawn sensing in interval, and basically what this means is that every earlier in the pawns, what we had to do was we had to set up a set timer, and then we set up a function in that set timer we set for 1 second, so it kept constantly checking every 1 second. Well, that's exactly the same thing, but it's already built into the character. It's right here. So anytime it's going to be listening it's going to be sending out a signal every half a second in this case. If we wanted this to be 1 second, if we wanted it to be every 10 seconds, 1 second is probably good enough for me for now. Don't worry about changing anything else. So at this point, this character is now ready as far as its pawn sensing. Now, at this point, we don't have it doing anything with that pawn sensing, so we now need to create a little bit of some blueprint stuff back here to get that to work. So let's go ahead and delete those. And what we want to do is click on pawn sensing, and in the details panel, remember what that does is it gives you any events that might work with that particular object, and we do get one here underneath events called on see pawn. So let's click that, and that will create a event called onSeePawn. So anytime the character sees a pawn or senses a pawn, and remember that our first person character is labeled as a pawn, or at least their capsule and their mesh are, it will trigger it to do something. So what we need to do now is we need to cast this, cast to first person. Okay, first person character. We're going to attach the pawn to the object. So now this pawn sensing will sense the first person character. From there, we need this to go to AI move to. Okay, so there is a task called AI move to. And from there, the target actor is going to be the first person player. And our AI move to the pawn, we can type in self, because what we want to do is have the statue itself move towards the actor, which is the first person pawn. So at this point, that's it. We're pretty much done. We don't have to do anything else with this. The only other thing that you could do is change the acceptance radius. So maybe within every 30 units away from it'll stop, or 20 units away from it'll stop, and it'll consider that it has moved close enough towards you to stop. Okay, so I'm going to leave my radius around 5. And now that we know what everything's doing, let's go ahead and push play and test this out and see if that everything's working okay. So we'll push play. Move out. You'll see that the character, or that the character does not see me. I'm not within range. Let me get close enough to it, and you'll see now that it starts following me around. Let me see if there's a way that I can kind of ditch this. There we go. I'm now behind it. I'm still in the navigational mesh area, but it is no longer coming towards me because it can't see me anymore. The second it sees me, it will start moving towards me. And let's see if I can get out. There we go. So I'm now behind it again and no longer in that green cone where it could see where I was. Okay, so that's a very simple move to. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could have a, when we start adding hit values and things like that, the more it's in contact with you, like every time it touches you, it causes you X number of hits of damage, like it's running over you or something, like a vehicle would, right? A big heavy statue. So in the next one, we'll show you how to create a statue like this. We'll take this one into the next level and we'll make it start shooting projectiles at us, okay? So hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.